Welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. This is going to be a good one. I can't wait to get this started. It is our NFL Draft Extravaganza 2024 edition. We're going to be talking all things NFL Draft. We're actually going to have our own mock draft. We're going to go 1 through 32 in the first round. We'll rate the players by position based on how we think they'll do. We'll check out, we have salary caps, we've got players coming and going, new coaches, new GM. It's going to be great. Setting ground rules for tonight's show for all our viewers that are going to be joining us and tuning in is we're going to do in the mock draft, we're going to give every team 2 minutes. We're going to put them on the clock, a 2-minute clock. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about their losses and additions during the season, and then ultimately who the pick is going to be. Who do we project to be that pick? Now, we're not privy to trades and things like that. I totally understand that, but we'll do the best we can. But let's look at it through 1 through 32 based on teams' needs, who they will pick. Any comments and questions, Joni, our Q&A girl, will go ahead, throw that out to us, and as a consensus, we'll do our best to answer that. So without further ado, let's bring on our guest for tonight. As always, my two co-hosts. First of all the way down in Jacksonville, Florida, former Florida A&M quarterback, the Rattler himself, Al Chester, voice of the Rattlers on football and basketball broadcasts, and Benny the Book, the King of Carolina. So let's bring in our two co-hosts for this evening's show. Guys,
what's going on, Les?
What's going on?
Happy Hump Day from Jacksonville, Florida.
Hey, happy Passover to my Jewish friends, and let me take a quick sip of Jeremy Roenick's Whiskey in the Wild. What a Chris and Tonight show. Guys, this is going to be good. Tomorrow night's the draft, 8 o'clock in Detroit. So let's get it started. We'll just throw up the draft order right now of 1 through 32 in the first round. We'll delve into this, obviously, and we'll do our mock draft. But I think right now, this is kind of the way it is right now. No trades as of yet. It looks like the Bears are drafting number 1. In number 32, it's going to be the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. So, obviously, we've got a bunch of teams here that do not have second-round picks. We have Arizona has 2 first-rounders. Minnesota has 2. Chicago has 2. There could be trades. I know Benny's talking about the Giants possibly trading out of 6, the Patriots trading out of 3. But we're going to kind of just stick to 1 through 32 at this point right now. And I think right now Tony's going to scroll through the top 32. And unless there's any trades, that's the way it's going to go. And what I think we should do moving forward now is let's bring up and let's talk a little bit about the positions of the players that are going to be drafted tomorrow night. And what we can do is we can start kind of breaking it down by Al's favorite position, because this is what Al did, the quarterback. So, Al, this is kind of the consensus of the top quarterbacks, best of the rest. You agree with this? Do you think Caleb Williams is the clear-cut number 1 here?
Well, I tell you what, he's had a tremendous year. He's a tremendous talent. He's proven that he can win. He has the arm talent, pocket presence, everything you're looking for in a quarterback. But now I like Jaden Daniels as the best quarterback coming out. But I'm sure that the consensus right now is Caleb Williams. He reminds people of Patrick Mahomes. So I think he's going to probably be that number 1 pick. But my personal pick, I like Jaden Daniels.
Benny.
I agree with Al. I really do. I watched that kid from LSU. He's like you were giving us the stats, 6'4". Yeah, he's a little lean, but you know what? Always put the weight on. Washington could call me and he can hang out with me for a week or so. I'll put on 20 or 30 pounds on him.
You bet you will.
Yeah. He hangs out with me. Get some nice milkshakes and look.
Yeah, but we want good weight, Benny. We don't want to slow him down here, so.
It won't slow down.
So, obviously, we do think Williams, and we'll get to the mock draft. We have Williams number 1. I know it's a Williams-Daniels, a 1-2. You got the 2 Heisman Trophy winners from the past 2 years in that. So, Drake May, obviously, a lot of people looking at him as a first-rounder. J.J. McCarthy, all of a sudden, has made the big jump. Quarterback, the defending champion, Michigan Wolverines. And then you've got a couple of Pac-12, well, I guess Pac-2 now, right? There's no more Pac-12 in football. But Bo Nix, who put up amazing numbers last year, 3 interceptions all year, really takes care of the football. And Michael Penix Jr., who's got great arm talent. I know, Al, you love the way he spins it. Little question on the couple of surgeries he's had when he was in Indiana, banged up knees. But you think, do either one of you think that Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. can sneak into the first round?
I think Michael Penix Jr. can, because he can spin it. He can play. Questionable about the knee injuries. Bo Nix has a lot of snaps under his belt. You know, my son and I talk about this all the time. Quarterbacks who are successful in the National Football Leagues are quarterbacks who played 3 years or better in college. Bo Nix is an old guy. He's been around a while. I think he's 24, 25, one of the older guys. Mm-hmm. He's thrown the ball around. He proved he can play. The game has slowed down for him. He's mature. Penix, I think, too, he's a senior guy, been around a while. I think both of those guys, depending on how things shake out, you know, I'm expecting blockbuster trades, eye-popping moves, and old faces in new places. Well, now, you ask if those guys can sneak into the first round, there are needs for quarterback. Everybody needs a good quarterback. So I think both of those guys have that type talent, and they've got enough snaps under their belts.
Well, here's an interesting thing, guys, about the quarterback. If you're looking at these rankings right now, 5 out of the top 6 are all transfers. You know, Williams started his career at Oklahoma. Jane Daniels at Arizona State. Well, actually, J.J. McCarthy J.J. McCarthy and Drake May were recruited by both their schools, but Bo Nix started his career at Auburn. Penix Jr. started at Indiana. Even some of the other guys, Spencer Rattler was a preseason All-American, a potential Heisman pick, and who replaced him at Oklahoma? Caleb Williams. He goes to South Carolina. So you got a lot of guys, like you said, Al, have played a lot of football. It's not a one and done. It's not a Mitch Trubisky type of thing where they had one season. These guys really, really played, and they started a number of games. And you cannot, evaluating experience, it's such a huge thing, Al, right? Experience is everything.
Absolutely. And that's one of my concerns with the kid out of North Carolina.
Yeah, Drake.
He didn't have a whole lot of snaps under his belt. I watched him play last year. I mean, he has the arm talent. He's big. He's strong. He can make the throws. But when you need a kid to carry, you need your quarterback to carry that football team late in the fourth quarter. I didn't see him do that. He didn't check that box for me last football season. Now, J.J. McCarthy, I still say he had the best quarterback coach on the sideline with him. Every quarterback that his head football coach touched, has done a tremendous job. And I'm expecting him, obviously, to get some rhythm as well. But he too, doesn't have a whole lot of snaps on him. He had a great coach to keep him settled and keep him in pocket, if you will.
Yeah, I agree.
Nix is like he could be the Mr. Irrelevant over there, the 49er quarterback. You know,
Nix is not going to last till the 7th round.
No, he's not going to go. He's not going to go last.
Yeah.
But with the experience, that kid played a lot of games at Iowa State. I watched him.
Oh yeah,
he played a lot of games.
Yeah.
And the Big 12, he always played in big football games. I mean, they weren't the strongest conferences, but he played in a lot of big games, and that'll help him a lot. And the Bears they learned from the last North Carolina quarterback that played, like, how many games did he play?
Trubisky didn't start a tremendous amount of games. He didn't start a lot of games.
Trubisky he started 13 games.
13
Same
games.
thing with Sanchez when the Jets took him.
Right.
Pete Carroll, he told him he's not ready for the NFL.
Yeah.
And he went anyway.
Well,
and look what happened.
Well, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks, obviously, when we get to our mock draft. We got the running backs we can put up there. I think we're all in consensus agreement that if maybe one gets going in the first round, that would be it. It's really not a running back heavy draft. The priorities have changed in the NFL right now. It's all about wide receivers, playmakers, quarterbacks, offensive linemen, and corners. So, Jonathan Brooks might be the best out there. You got some other guys that are going to make rosters, no doubt about it. But I wouldn't expect any of these guys to come in and light the house on fire.
Well, Hayden Wright, Mike, from Tennessee.
But he won't be a first-round pick, Ben. I don't think so.
No, he won't be a first-round pick. No.
So let's go ahead.
The game has changed so much now. Like you said, everybody is throwing the football around, and the running back position has kind of been watered down, if you will. These guys are talented running backs. Brooks and Benson, Wright, these guys can play, but they're going to probably all go second, third round. Mm-hmm. If then, they'll be drafted. They just won't be top drafts.
I agree 100%.
Yep.
Now, let's get to the real meat of this draft. I think this might be the deepest position in the draft as far as if you're drafting a top 20 here, you're going to have some quality receivers. And that is going to be, obviously, this receiver group. We've got the number one consensus receiver on the board is Ohio State's All-American Marvin Harrison Jr. We know his dad, tremendous football player, Hall of Famer with the Indianapolis Colts. Harrison's just a great player. I think we've got some video on Harrison here. We'll be running some extra video again. We've got Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors. They kind of flip-flop 2-3. I particularly am a big Rome Odunze fan. I love his size. I love his hands, his catch radius. He's tough to bring down. You can't argue with Neighbors. Neighbors put up insane numbers at LSU. Last year and the year before, he was very, very good. Going down the line, you can have some sleepers here, Al. Troy Franklin's a tremendous player at Oregon, put up huge numbers. Ladd McConkey at Georgia. Rome Wilson, defending champion Michigan Wolverines. I think he's going in the second round. You're going to have some quality players here going in the first and second round, and some teams are going to hit it big with these receivers.
I tell you what, Les. I think that of the top 10 receivers, all of them will be drafted before the third round. I think that teams know they got to have playmakers outside. They're all looking for guys who can take it to the house, make the big catch, turn the small plays into big plays. And you're talking about Harrison, Neighbors, and the kid from Washington. They're elite receivers. And then you got McConkey, Thomas, and Mitchell. All should be first-round picks. You got Wilson, Franklin, Rochelle, and Coleman. I mean, these guys can play, man.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting those guys to be gone early the second day. Everybody should be gone because they'll just do the first round on tomorrow, and the second round and third round will be on Friday.
Correct. And now, Benny, let's go
Washington. Washington had two other wide receivers also besides
Polk and McMillan that we didn't even put in here.
They're gonna go. They could go
in the third round. We didn't put them in. Now, Benny, we're gonna go to the tight ends, and we have Benny's favorite player in the entire draft. And Benny's been talking about his praises the entire year. Benny, you want to talk up your boy Brock Bowers?
Yeah. Well, he, you know, other than the quarterbacks, and he's probably the best player in the draft. You know, little worried about his injury at the end of the year, but he's a tough guy. He's not your traditional like blocking tight end. Like me and you Les talked about that. Mm-hmm. He's he could go deep. You know, you put him on a team with a great quarterback, he'll do a lot of damage.
He's a Travis Kelce type player, I'd say.
Yeah, he'll do a lot of damage.
Kelce. Now let's run quick to another position that I think is very deep in this draft, and a lot of people are going to take a flyer on a lot of these guys to go in the first round. That's the offensive tackle. If you're going to throw the football, Al always talks about it starts up front, and these are the guys that are going to protect the high-priced talent. Give them time to find their targets, and you've got a lot of offensive linemen. I've got possibly 5 or 6 going in the first round. Joe Alt is consensus number 1 by everybody. Looks like a 10-year pro at Notre Dame. We'll obviously get to the picks in the mock draft. Interior line. I mean, obviously, we got some good ones here, but I don't think anybody at the center and guard position is going to go in the first round. I think maybe the second round. Same thing with the defensive line. Byron Murphy and this kid Newton at Illinois. A lot of people are comparing him to an Aaron Donald. I don't think you can compare anybody to Aaron Donald. I mean, the guy is arguably the greatest defensive tackle, but I think it's the size thing. But let's look at edge rushers, guys. Let's look at, if you're an offense and you're protecting the quarterback and you need a receiver, and defense, you need 2 things. You need somebody to get to the passer, and you need somebody to defend those wide receivers. There's some good edge rushers here, guys. Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Latu from UCLA. I see all these guys going in the first round.
Yeah, I see. I like the kid from UCLA. Very, very talented. And you know what happens in these drafts, Les? Once one team decides to take an edge rusher, then all of a sudden, next 3 or 4 picks probably will be edge rushers. Like they're all going to go. Yeah. They're going to go. They're going to take the quarterbacks. They're going to take the wide receivers. Then they're going to take the tackles, and that's the way the draft goes.
Well, there's always a run, Al. There's always a run on positions, right? People get, there is.
Yeah, I'm with Benny. I tell you what, teams will draft certain players, and then you'll see they will influence what the other teams will
Other
do. Now,
teams will do,
people
right.
draft
Yep.
based on what they need,
Right.
but defense win championship, offense sell tickets. So I mean, they're going to get the pass rusher. They got to get outside linebacker help, D-line help, and obviously, if you got that kind of pressure, you can put that kind of pressure on the quarterback. You can get cornerbacks who can cover and who will be good shutdown corners and play man-to-man defense.
Here's a quick one on you. We had it up there. Marshawn Nealand. I have him going in the 3rd round. There are some mock drafts that are saying late 1st, early 2nd. He went to Western Michigan University. I'll tell you, that MAC, they put out some players. Eastern Michigan put out Max Crosby. No one had heard of Max Crosby. Turned out to be one of the best defensive ends in football. Watch out for this kid. He could be really good, Nealand. Linebackers, Peyton Wilson's getting all the love here at North Carolina State. I see some good ones here, but I don't see anything outstanding. I mean, obviously a lot of these guys are going to get drafted. They're going to make teams. I get it, but I don't see any massive playmakers out of the gate here. And that brings us to the cornerback position. Al, you're a quarterback. You're throwing to your great wide receivers, and you need some lockdown corners. And I think there's a stud bringing back the MAC, the Mid-American Conference. I have him rated number 1. A lot of people do. Quinshon Mitchell was unbelievable in the pro day. He was great in his workout combine at the MAC at Toledo. He's got the size. He's a tremendous cornerback. Everyone's got him going. It's either him and Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. I really like this kid at Toledo. What do you guys think?
Well, the straw man for the cornerback position changes all the time. Once upon a time, it was a short cornerback with great speed and great anticipation. Then you had the big receivers. Then they needed big cornerbacks now to cover these big receivers. So, I mean, I think both of them are tremendous talents. And if you got great pass rush, you can have if you don't have a great corner, you don't have a Deion Sanders in the draft. But if you got great pass rush, that's just as good as having a great cornerback who can cover. I mean, they complement each other.
Front seven, those 4 linemen and those linebackers, they put the pressure on, and the defensive backs, they got to be good. I mean, they got to be fast, but they don't have to be, like Al said, they don't have to be Deion Sanders.
No, and there's some good ones. We got some good ones. I mean, Nate Wiggins.
Well, Nate Wiggins is good, but he's a little on the small side, like you said. He's they rate him very high. They think he's very talented, but he's a little small.
How about one of our, for the all-name team, Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama? I actually like Terry and Arnold, the opposite corner, Alabama, to go a little bit higher, and I like his ceiling a little bit more. I think Mike Sanistrell from Michigan, a kid who started his career at the University of Michigan as a wide receiver, a slot receiver, moves over 2 years ago under with Harbaugh's tutelage, and has become an All-American, actually out of Everett, Massachusetts, in my own backyard. So I hope Mike gets drafted. I got him going 3rd round, but I think he could be a very valuable player. Safety, you got some good ones. I think some guys will be drafted in the 2nd, 3rd round. I don't see anybody going in the 1st. And basically, that's kind of like the top players in this draft, and that's going to lead us into what we love to do, and that's the mock draft. Everyone's got their own mock. Everyone's got their own draft, their own draft board. Again, anybody out there right now that is checking out tonight's live stream show, has any comments, have any questions for us, where they think a player should go based on their team that they like, let us know. But let's start it on the clock. We're going to do it like the NFL. We're going to do it on the clock. I'm doing it right here. We're going to do it on the clock, and it's going to be the Chicago Bears are on the clock, 2 minutes. Guys, they lost some players. They get Keenan Allen. They lose their quarterback, Justin Fields. They decide he's not the franchise guy. They jettison him to Pittsburgh. They pick up some players. They've got a new offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron over from Seattle who did great things. Is this consensus? Everyone's saying Caleb Williams, is he going to be the pick?
I think he will be. I think that he has all the magic. He's the guy that's checked off all the boxes for the GM and the head coach and the organization for the Chicago Bears, and he's a tremendous talent, man. I mean, he's got a new OC coming in there, so I think the change of scenery is going to be good. I think he's going to be an added addition and a player who's going to be expected to play right away. And we're going to find out what he's all about. I think he's got the arm talent. He can do it. He's got to provide the kind of leadership that you want. And we want to see how his game transitions from college to pro.
Right. Yeah.
But he's going to be that guy.
He's that playmaker that runs around, and sometimes pro teams, they don't want you to run around. They want you to play from within the pocket. Because these guys are big. They hit you. You don't want to be running around getting hit by some of these linemen and defensive players. I agree with Al. He's the number one guy. If the Bears didn't have another first round pick, I would think they need a lot of help in the positions. I would think that they would trade that if they could get the right amount of picks, a nice haul. And this way they could fill in a lot of spaces at one time, because let in some other team. The first player all the time is mostly a quarterback, and it's hit or miss. There's like you said, there's 6 quarterbacks. Any one of them could be the guy.
Well,
any one of them could be the guy.
Well, I'm telling you right now, there's no way the Bears are going to pass on this guy. They'd let Fields go. They're going to take Williams number 1. That's number 1. That's the pick. We're saying it's going to be Caleb Williams. Now on the clock, we've got the Washington Commanders. A lot of people obviously saying Jaden Daniels is going to be the guy. Is it going to be Jaden Daniels, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner out of LSU, transfer out of Arizona State, put up insane numbers last year, also gained over 1,000 yards rushing. Guys, do we like Jaden Daniels to go number 2 to the Commanders?
Jaden Daniels is my guy. He's 6'4". He can run. He can make all the throws. He can spin that football, man. The Washington Redskins are going to need an exciting quarterback like his talent level. And I think for sure he's going to be that guy. And I tell you what, if they can pull some pieces in around him, they're going to be an better effective offense for sure as they get ready for the 2024 season.
Benny, you like the pick?
Yeah. Oh, I love the pick. I agree with Al. I personally think he's physically the better quarterback to take. Okay. But Williams, the Bears are going to take him. Kid has a lot of moxie. He doesn't look to run. He looks to throw. He's a pro quarterback. He can run. That's the added bonus.
All right.
He's got the speed. He's got the agility. I definitely think that they'd be crazy if they didn't take him.
I think so too. Now we have a question from one of our viewers potentially on this pick. So let's throw to Joni.
Not really a question, Les.
Comment?
But, yes, actually a little debate here.
A little debate going on here between our viewers. Let's check it out.
Yeah, Rob says, Washington is the wild card. Will they take Jaden Daniels or Drake May? Now, Eric Mayer responds and says, Washington is going to take May.
Wow, that's huge because that really affects the Patriots moving forward. If everyone's right here and they decide to flip-flop that, and for some reason Washington favors May, there's no doubt in my mind the Patriots are jumping all over Jaden Daniels. He does not fall any further than 3. Guys, any chance do you think Washington's not going to take Daniels?
Washington has a North Carolina quarterback already, correct?
Well, he's gone now. They let Howell go.
He's
let him go?
Yeah.
He passed.
Yeah. I think that the Redskins will take Daniels because he fits them better. I think that Drake May is more of a New England style type quarterback. Mm-hmm. Now, anything can happen, but I think that the upside, Daniels' upside is bigger than May's. I think May concerns me because he hadn't had a lot of college snaps.
Right.
But I'm not shortchanging his talent
and
his ability to play. I just think that for the Washington Redskins, I think he'll be a better fit. And I think May will be a better fit for the Patriots.
Yeah, I do too. Well, so they're on the clock. They're off the clock. So a consensus is between us. We like Jaden Daniels. We understand that could be a flip-flop. Someone might like them, but we're picking Daniels for the Commanders at 2. Now on the clock at the New England Patriots at 3. They can do a lot of things, trade out. But we're going as constituted right now that the Patriots are going to take this pick. I have them going with a quarterback. They've got Brissett as a placeholder, which would be a great situation for someone like May to come in who didn't have a lot of experience. He can sit and learn under Brissett. They can build the team around him in the next 2 to 3 years, and when he's ready, they put him in there. He will be 23, 24 years old. They'll have some talent around him. Do the Patriots take a quarterback and Drake May at number 3, guys?
You know what? We talk about it all the time, Les, that the folks it's a microwave society. People want to win right now. People don't let kids develop So, I mean, I think you're right. I think you got Jacoby Brissett up there. He can keep the seat warm, but they're going to give the keys to the car to this kid right away, I think, sooner than later. I think he's a talent, but we'll see how it all plays out. But definitely he's going to be their pick.
Benny, the Patriots take May.
I don't know. I'm looking at this now. New England's a type of organization. I think they might go for a tackle or one of these receivers because they got the 36th and the 40th pick.
Mm-hmm.
Of those, what do we have? 6 or 7 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You might be able to get Nix or Penix,
or maybe a Spencer Rattler potentially.
Right. They who knows better than them? They took. When did they get Mr. Brady? They got him at the end.
Well, I think everyone missed the boat on Tom Brady,
he's not there anymore. So. But he's Mayo is a defensive player coordinator. He might take a defensive player, the best defensive player in the thing.
He could potentially, Benny. But I'm going to say right now, the biggest change of the Patriots, Bill Belichick not being there, is not been lauded as a tremendous drafter in the last couple of years. His draft. So
no, he's made a lot of.
You got Mayo, the new head coach, Elliott Wolf, the GM. We got to go on the Patriots, but I think we're all in consensus. Okay. I think, Benny, we could make a trade, but we're going to say Drake May. Let's move on to the fourth round.
Wait. Can I interject?
Yeah, actually, we got another comment or question out here from one of our viewers.
Actually, just a comment from John Irwin.
Comment from John.
Yes, he's obviously a Patriot fan. Yes, I want May at number 3, unless Benny's Giants are really stupid and trade up.
Okay, well, that's
throwing the gauntlet.
Ben, we'll talk about the Giants in the next couple of picks, but
I don't want to talk about the Giants.
And the Giants are stupid enough to do a lot of things. So
they are going to do something stupid. So I'll tell you that right now.
So now on the clock, we got the Arizona Cardinals, who they have a quarterback entrenched in. Kyler Murray's been hurt. They lost some receivers in the last couple of years. They lose Rondale Moore this year. Ezekiel Turner. They haven't really picked up a wide receiver to bolster that loss. And obviously, D. Hopkins is gone. So I'm thinking they get the best wide receiver on the board. The consensus, not mine, but the consensus out there is Marvin Harrison Jr. Does Arizona go and grab Marvin Harrison Jr. to help out Kyler Murray?
Marvin Harrison Jr. has all the name recognition, but you got 2 other guys, maybe 3 other guys who are elite receivers as well. I think because he's played and had success, he's the Biletnikoff winner. He's had 2.5, 3 great years at Ohio State, and he's Marvin Harrison Jr. The Arizona Cardinals are going to pick him up right away.
Benny, any change on that? You think they stand pat and take Marvin Harrison Jr. if he's available?
Yeah. Oh, he's going to be available. He's going to be available. This is they're going to take one of those 3 guys. Okay. One of those 3, the LSU receiver, the Washington, or him. But I would say they're going to take Harrison.
All right, so
I like him. He's got the pedigree. He's
I agree. No, he's a tremendous. I don't think you can go wrong with any of these 3 or 4 receivers. They're just so good, and the receiver group is so deep. But we're just going to say Marvin Harrison Jr. goes number 4 to the Arizona Cardinals, which now on the clock is my team. That's my team, Benny. And then you got your team. So we got the Los Angeles Chargers with $31.6 million of cap space. Let's see. What have they lost? They've lost everybody on offense. They lose Austin Eckler. They're all, scrimmage leader. They lose both wide receivers, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams off injured. They lose a tight end. They lose everybody. They need to bolster something. They got Gus Edwards in from Baltimore. I know they got a couple of tight ends in here, but it's got to be Malik Neighbors. It's got to be Neighbors at LSU. They love the kid. He put up insane numbers at LSU last year playing with Daniels. He's a speed burner. We can take the top off the defense. He can test catches. He's tough to bring down. Guys, I think it's Malik Neighbors with the Chargers at 5.
No question. He's an elite receiver. And just like you say, he's a true number 1 receiver. And then you got a new head coach who was a quarterback. He knows he's got to find somebody outside to stretch the field and make things happen. Neighbors is that guy.
Benny's, are they surprised? Did they do anything crazy here? They trade down? What do you think?
No, I think they could go for Joe Alt. Protect the quarterback.
Well, they have a good left side. They've had, 2 years ago, they got the kid out of Northwestern, Rayshawn. I forget what his last name is, but he ended up, John Irwin's out there. John, what's Rayshawn's last name? Out of Northwestern. He ended up being an all-pro his first year, and then they drafted the kid out of Boston College, Zion Johnson. So, they bolstered their offensive line pretty good, but if you lose both wide receivers, both tight ends, and a running back, you're going to have to have some kind of production. And they've got a stud quarterback who's, by everyone's account, a franchise guy in Justin Herbert. Big arm, can run, can throw. You're going to have to give him some weapons.
But what does Jim Harbaugh like to do?
He likes to pound the ball.
He likes to pound the ball.
That's true. But I'm thinking with that kind of quarterback talent, you need a wide receiver. So I'm saying they're taking Malik Neighbors, which brings us now to the New York Football Giants. Benny, I'm going to throw it at you. I say they make the smart move and take an offensive tackle, the best one available on the board, Notre Dame's Joe Alt. You say they probably do a monumental screw-up, and what do they do?
Yeah, it's sad to say that I do agree with you. I think that if he's there, that's who they should take. They'll probably take one of the wide receivers, Adunze. That's who I think they're going to take.
Well, I tell you what, Daniel Jones, their quarterback, needs somebody to protect him.
Yes,
he's had some problems. He's been sacked a lot. So, that would be the logical and smart pick to take an O-lineman, and Ott seems to be that guy.
Yeah.
I agree.
I can't agree with you, but I just have this feeling. I know they're enamored with the wide receivers, and if they go, they don't pick till 47. So none of those top 7 guys are going to be there at 47.
No, I agree. But I still say if you're married to Daniel Jones, and there's rumors, you said, Benny, that J.J. McCarthy's in play with the Giants. But
I don't understand it. He just committed $90 million to this guy.
Exactly.
And put a line in front of him. Like, you guys are right. Put the line in front of him. Give him some time.
Well, you have to. There's some great video on Alt right here. You have to protect your assets. And by the way, we've got some more questions maybe on this Giants pick from Joni.
You want
to? Joni, go ahead. Do we have anybody?
Benny? Yes. Actually, Rob agrees. Giants need Alt so they can give Daniel Jones 10 to 12 minutes to find a receiver.
The John,
10 to 12 minutes.
Something else. You have your list of this guy from Washington, Troy Fautanu.
Yeah, the offensive lineman. Washington.
Yeah, they say he has really long arms. He's got strong arms. Like he was pushing. I saw him. He was just pushing guys away. I think he gave up 2 sacks in 3 years or some crazy number like that. So the Giants always go for these out of the sky picks. I say all these good players. Where do they come up with this guy?
Maybe they pick him. Maybe they make a crazy trade. They pick him.
Les, I hope you're right. But you're not.
Guys, well, this is a shout out.
Your record's not too good.
Well, honestly, this really is. This is a shout out to Brian Dable and Joe Schoen. Make the smart pick, make the safe pick, take Joe Alt. So now on the clock, we've got the Tennessee Titans, a ton of cap space, $31.7 million. Their biggest loss this year is the rushing champion is Derrick Henry. They lose Henry, who's been their franchise cornerstone since he was drafted. They've lost some other players as well. Picked up some good guys. They picked up Calvin Ridley. A lot of people thought the Patriots were going to get Ridley. They picked Ridley up. They picked up. They bolstered their offensive line with the addition of Sadiq Charles and Lloyd Cushenberry III. By the way, both LSU alumni there. I really like them. I'm still bolstering the offensive line. I still think they're going to go offensive line, and I like Talias Fuaga out of Oregon State. I personally love this kid's upside. You guys, do you think they stay with the offensive line, or they go with a playmaker, or they go defense? What do you think?
I think the Titans will be smart to do that because they've got a young quarterback in Will Levis. He finished the season pretty strong last year. It was impressive. Like you said, they lost a running back, but they got Calvin Ridley, those receivers. They may want to throw that football around because this kid can really throw it a long way. But you can't throw it if you don't have anybody to protect you. So I say offensive line for sure in the first round for the Titans.
Yes, here comes the run on the lineman. Teams will panic. They'll say, "Oh, the first guy's gone. We got to take the next best guy." You know.
Well, Benny, I want to ask
agree.
you a question. I want to ask you a question. Fuaga, played great. I think he gave up like 1 sack last year in a very competitive Pac-12, where at 1.7 teams were ranked in the top 20. Is he an upgrade maybe over Penn State's? I have to learn how to pronounce these names, by the way. Good luck to Roger Goodell tomorrow to pronounce some of these things. But Ula Fashanu at Penn State, he's a 2-year starter. I just like Fuaga's upside, but would they be wrong to pick this kid out of Penn State?
No, because Pac-12, passing conference, throw the ball all over the place.
Yeah.
Pro teams, it depends on the Titans they're a running team. I mean, they like to run. They had the running back. Now
they don't anymore.
I know they don't have anymore, but he's older. Hey, he's had a lot of good years with him. It's time to move on. They probably got a lot of good players for him. And anyone, they might take the Penn State guy. They may take the Washington guy.
Well,
everyone rates as a better run blocker.
Well,
they might want the run blocker.
Well, and just remember, Benny, they lose their head coach Vrabel, who's obviously a really good coach. They bring in Brian Callahan, and they get Tony Pollard, who is a really good running back for the Cowboys. They got him in the fold. So
Vrabel must have said something to the owner, because that guy is a top-notch coach.
Yeah.
And to come and pull Callahan out of the he's an offensive lineman coach also. Yeah. Correct. If he was the Raiders offensive line coach, so that's his niche.
Something we got to keep in mind is the type scheme that they're going to run. I mean, Pollard is more of a slashing type runner as opposed to a bruising type runner. Mm-hmm. And then they got the speed guys outside. You got the quarterback with the big arm. So you need somebody to pass protect for sure.
Yep.
Well, our consensus is they're going to go with an offensive lineman, offensive tackle. Yes. Who it's going to be, we don't know, but we're going to guess Fuaga here, which brings us to the Atlanta Falcons. This is the first of their 2 first-round picks. They've got a pretty good roster. Okay, they bring over Kirk Cousins from Minnesota. They pay him a boatload of money. Al, I know what you're going to say. I agree with you. He can get you to the door, but he can't kick it in. I think he's a stat guy. I don't think you're ever going to win a championship with Kirk Cousins. But they brought in a couple other players. They lose Desmond Ridder, who they drafted out of Cincinnati a couple years ago. Van Jefferson, a wide receiver. But I think they're going to go defense. I think they're going to bolster the defense with Raheem Morris, who's the new coach there. And I say they go with an edge rusher in Dallas Turner. Does that make sense for Atlanta here at pick number 8?
I agree with you. I tell you what, I think Kirk Cousins will get you to the door, but he can't kick it in. I mean, he's an old guy on top of that, and he's coming off an injury. But Raheem Morris is a defensive guy. Mm-hmm. I expect him to go defense, and that's a great pick for him.
Benny?
Good pick, but there's a little thing going on here. There was the tampering thing. They might lose a draft pick.
That's interesting. I'm assuming they'll address that tomorrow during the draft.
Well, they said they probably would do that before the draft. So
okay.
It was Atlanta and one other team. One other team had the tampering. They were investigating. I forget who it was, but Kirk Cousins supposedly talked to some Atlanta people before the deadline, but the deal was already made. They said, he was going there, and he just happened to talk to one of the people in the front office and before the deadline. So we'd have to wait and see about that. But Dallas Turner, probably the best defensive player, one of the best defensive players out there.
I agree. Al, you know something? ESPN might have Adam Schefter. Guess what? We got the book with that inside info. Not a lot of cap space for Atlanta either. $6.4 million, so they got to be pretty creative. That takes us to the Chicago Bears number 2 pick in the first round. That would be number 9 overall. Let's see. According to us, they're taking Caleb Williams, who they think is going to be their franchise quarterback. Let's hope they get it right this time around. For our one of our super subscribers out there in the Chicago area, Ro, I know she's a massive Bears fan. She liked Fields. He's gone now to Pittsburgh. They got Caleb Williams with number 1, and we say they're going to help. They're going to get him some help. They're going to get another great receiver out of the University of Washington, Rome Odunze, a guy who is long. He can get in and out of his breaks. He's got great hands, Great catch radius, really difficult to bring down. Is a tremendous wide receiver out of the University of Washington. Did some great things in the playoffs and in the Pac-12 the last 2 years. Kid out of Bishop Gorman High School in Nevada. Al, you can't go wrong with this pick. You know, you're going to take the quarterback with the first pick. You might as well get him a present right off the bat. And I guess they flew in together to Detroit for the draft, so it makes all the sense in the world, right?
Hey, I tell you what, they've got a couple of nice receivers up there already, but I tell you what, you're absolutely right. You got a new OC in Chicago. You got a new quarterback. Hey, you might as well get him a receiver, and let's lock and load this thing and make it happen. That pick makes sense. I like an offensive lineman as well in that position, but that pick actually makes sense for them.
Benny, you concur with that?
Oh yeah, get them. They get them. They're going to get them as many weapons as they can.
All right, the Bears, we like that. That's going to be great for the Chicago fans out there. We go to pick number 10 and the New York Giants, or the New York Jets here. And the Jets have added a lot of players. Now, listen, a lot of this thing hinges on the health of,
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, because he gets hurt in the second play of the game last year, goes down with an ACL injury. They have done a tremendous amount. I know they got a lot of offensive linemen. They got Tyron Smith, who, when healthy, is very good, but he hasn't been healthy for the Cowboys. They bring in Morgan Moses from Baltimore, who was great, but he's kind of 33 years old, kind of getting up there in age. They bring in John Simpson as well, but I like them taking the kid out of Penn State, Ula Fashanu. I like that pick. I think they need to do everything they can to protect Aaron Rodgers. Guys?
I concur. I mean, you got to get the steel curtain in front of the old man and let him be able to do his thing. And like you said, I mean, it all starts up front, and Aaron needs that youth up front to protect him.
Benny?
Yes. Yeah, no doubt about it. They have the wide receivers. They have they have the running backs for the quarterback. You want to protect that guy. That's their whole season. They lost their whole season last year.
On the second play of the game.
I didn't think he was going to make it past the third game.
Yeah. He didn't make it past the third play of the opening
ridiculous.
Game. And the interesting thing here, guys, is 3 years ago, they picked Mekhi Becton, a mammoth offensive lineman out of Louisville, and they thought they threw a ton of money at him, guaranteed, and he completely flamed out. He was not healthy, and when he wasn't very good, so they let him go. And that brings us up to Minnesota in pick 11. And listen, I'm just thinking here, I know we got some Minnesota Viking fans out there. I know Eric's out there. He's a diehard Viking fan. Eric, you got to think the Vikings have got to replace Kirk Cousins, right? And I'm thinking, hey, listen, they decide to pull the trigger and they get the national championship quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, who's risen up the draft boards. Guys, does it make sense for McCarthy? Do they maybe take a Penix or a Nix?
Well, I tell you what, it's either going to be McCarthy or Penix. I think that either one could fill the bill. It's a turf field they play on. Their home field is a turf field. Who manages the game better? I mean, that's going to be one of those deals where you have to look through a microscope and say, okay, who's got the most snaps? How do you really measure the success of a quarterback? Who are we going to select? So McCarthy or Penix, I believe, will be in that slot.
Benny, did they take a quarterback, and does it make sense at this pick?
Of course, they have to take a quarterback. Yes, of course they do.
Do we have any comments out there? Does Eric say anything?
Yes, he says.
I knew Eric was going to chime in.
Al,
we got to get the Viking super fan in here. Eric, go ahead.
Okay.
I think this is where the first trade is going to come.
Okay,
because depending on who that Minnesota, if they think somebody else is going to take him, they might look to trade up.
Okay. I agree with that too, but let's get Eric's comment or question.
Okay. He says he likes JJ, as does John Irwin, but Eric says, I truly think Vikings can get JJ at 11 and keep both first rounders.
I'll tell you one thing. If they get their quarterback at 11, Benny, and he's available, and that's the guy that they like to be the successor to Kirk Cousins, and they get their second first-round pick, you don't trade up. If he's available and that's your guy that you've signaled,
you're right. Yeah.
You keep him and you don't trade up. So it's valuable to get that second first-round pick. So
well, look, I mean, 1, 2, and 3, you're thinking those are the 3 quarterbacks. So he's going to be left there because after that, nobody's really going to look for a quarterback.
That's true.
Until then.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
so they could just sit. If they think that the Giants might go and want J.J. McCarthy, then they might say, we got to do something because we feel they're going to take it.
Well, and that brings us to our next pick, which is 12 on the clock, the Denver Broncos, who really really got shot. I was really surprised that Russell Wilson last year under Sean Payton did not really play well last year. Numbers were not great. I'm thinking, I don't know much about Denver. I don't see them really being a player for the next couple of years, but they're going to have to get a quarterback. And this is my big first surprise of the draft. Guys, I'm thinking Michael Penix goes here. I'm thinking they do it.
Why would they trade for Wilson? Why would they trade for Wilson?
I didn't understand the whole logic of getting him and paying him that kind of money off the top. But guys, Al, I know you like Penix Jr. Listen, I loved him at Washington. He did some great things in Indiana too, but I really see the trade-up value here. And not the trade-up value, but I really see them moving up in really selecting a Penix, moving up on the board, than maybe a Bo Nix or settling for someone else. I think they see their guy in Penix, and they're going to pull the trigger right here.
Well, I tell you what, I think that Bo Nix and Peyton have been kind of eyeing each other. I think you might want to watch that one now. But I tell you what, Penix or McCarthy, either one, I think will be a good slot. That's going to be a tough situation, I think, for whoever goes in there. They've got a lot of work to do in Denver.
Benny, does it make sense to take a quarterback?
Didn't they lose
here?
one of their receivers, one of their top receivers? They lost them.
Let me look at my draft notes here.
Where's
Maybe one of our
draft?
crack viewers here can tell me. No, they lost Jerry Jeudy, exactly. So
Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
So they might go with they might go with one of these receivers. Who do they have a tight end? Could go for tight end. Brock Bowers.
Well, I got Bowers. Well, we got Bowers coming up here, but they lost obviously Russell Wilson, Jeudy. They lost Joey Jewell, and they lost defensive tackle Jonathan Harris. But I'm going to say, guys, I'm going to agree with both you guys. I think that they're going to somehow, they have to get a trigger man. They have to get a quarterback. So I'm going to say the quarterback here is Penix. It could very well be Nix. If Minnesota doesn't take McCarthy and he slides down, it could be McCarthy. So that brings us on to the Las Vegas Raiders on the clock. Hold on. We've got a question here or a comment.
A couple comments here. So John Irwin says, watch for Denver or the Raiders to trade up to jump over the Vikings.
Ooh.
And Daniel Kisthart says, I agree, John. That's Broncos' biggest need.
All right, so you know something,
Eric
guys?
says, I can see that happening.
Okay, so guys, if George Patton or Sean Payton, I don't know who's running this war room here. The GM is really Sean Payton doing it. If he decides, listen, we've identified our quarterback, and we think that Minnesota's going to take him, then there's no doubt in my mind they are going to trade up and they're going to get their guy. We just don't know who they value at this point. I'm going to say that they like Penix for some reason and more than McCarthy, but that obviously could be flip-flopped, and then maybe
they're in a tough position though. They don't have a second-round pick. I don't think they have much to work with.
If I'm Minnesota, I don't trade out of that.
Wheeling and dealing. Yeah,
I don't trade out of that.
They can't wheel and deal out of this position.
All right, well,
I don't think they take a quarterback, though.
Right,
I think they take somebody else.
All right, so on the clock now at 13, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. They got $25.3 million in cap space. They've lost some players. Key addition, though, defensively, they got Christian Wilkins. Looks like they're going to try to build their defense. And I get them going at the best corner in the draft, I think, is Quinyon Mitchell. Played in the MAC. He's done it against some competition. In the All-Star games, he played lights out, lit up the combine in his pro day. Guys, they have to go corner. They've got to play defense over there with the Raiders. They need a shutdown corner.
Yeah, that whole team is the organization has always been built around corners. They've always had great corners and safeties, and their new head coach is a defensive guy. This makes sense, and a great pick.
Yeah, Antonio Pierce. Benny, do you think any surprises with the Raiders, or do you think cornerback is the play?
No, I think it's a very good pick for them. Their defense at the end of the years was playing very well. The defensive line is tremendous now. They had Christian Wilkins.
Yeah.
I mean, they had two guys on the outside that were very good, and the coach has a PS. He's a giant defensive guy, man. He's bringing the toughness. Watch for wide receiver though. They always go for wide receivers, the Raiders. They love to air it out.
They do.
They love the bomb. They love the bomb.
I was going to say it's the old Al Davis theory, right?
Well, you're friends with Mark Davis. Call him and ask him who they like.
Yeah. I got him on speed dial right here. Okay, but well, we're going to say they're going to go with Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo, which brings us to 14. The New Orleans Saints. And Benny, I got to think they're taking the number 1 tight end by far off the board. It's going to be Brock Bowers. He's sitting there. They need a tight end. They're going to take Bowers.
Yep. Best player in the draft. Best player in the draft.
Yep. I agree too. I think he's the best tight end on the board. Yep. The guy can play. He can flex outside. He's fast enough. He can get deep, and he's got great hands, great agility, and a tremendous football player.
Yeah, I like that pick too. I think it's hands down if he's available. I think the Saints take him, which takes us to pick 15 in Indianapolis Colts. Got a lot of cap space. They need receivers. They lost. They didn't lose much in the receivers. They re-signed actually Michael Pittman to a 3-year, $70 million deal, which is huge. But they need help for Anthony Richardson, right? He only played a couple of games, got hurt. He's their first-round pick. I never liked the pick anyway. He didn't put up great numbers at Florida, but that's besides the point. He's their franchise guy. I say they bring in Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, a guy who lit up the combine, super speed, put up great production at LSU opposite Malik Neighbors. Those guys are unbelievable. I think they bring Richardson some help, and I think it's Brian Thomas Jr.
That makes sense. He's got elite speed, and they need to get a big play guy for Anthony Richardson and boost their offense. So that's a great pick.
Yep.
Benny?
I agree. I agree.
All right,
they're going to go that. Very good offensive coach, right? And I see they brought Joe Flacco in, huh?
They did. They brought Joe Flacco off the couch in Cleveland, and now they bring him over here.
Holy crap!
So Chris Ballard. Chris Ballard's a good GM. I think he builds a pretty good team, and we'll see what Shane Steichen does there as a head coach. But we're going to go to 16, and then we're going to take a quick break after 16, and that's the Seattle Seahawks on the clock. Not a lot of cap space. They love defense. Now, obviously, Mike McDonald, new head coach. Pete Carroll gone after a long time with the Seahawks. Very successful coach. Schneider brings in McDonald. I see them continuing to build defensively. They lost some defensive players, Mario Edwards Jr. and Bobby Wagner, a long-time All-Pro with the Seahawks. I see them going with Jerzon Newton, a defensive tackle. I'm not going to say he's Aaron Donald. Nobody is. But he's got measurables. He's kind of undersized at like 6'1", 298 pounds. Good run stopper. Good penetration up the middle. I say they go defense with this pick.
Makes sense. Geno in the offense was decent last year, but they had trouble stopping people. So you got to win championships with defense. Defense is where they need to build their team around. And their success over the past years have always been centered around their defense.
Betty, I like the pick.
I think you're right with defense. What about that cornerback, Cooper DeJean, the kid from Iowa?
I mean, they could go that way. There's no doubt about it. I could see them going that way. I just decided based on
they always had that great cornerback. Put them out there and let them
Richard Sherman types, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking they need help inside defensively. Mm-hmm. So I took one of the 2 top available interior defensive linemen. Yeah. So we all are in agreement they're going to go defense. Benny thinks they might go corner. I think Al thinks with me they're going to go D-line. So we've got through 16 picks. My God, it's already 7:54. We can only go another 20 minutes. So we're going to be back after this with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the 17th pick. And we'll do that in 2 minutes.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition, Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. It's our 2024 NFL Draft Preview Extravaganza with Al the Rattler Chester, my co-host, and Benny the Book, the King of Carolina. Wow. The show, guys, we've only gone through half the draft at 7:55. You know what that means? That means that this could take 3 hours, or we're going to have to really quick this thing up here.
Put the pedal in the metal there.
Yeah, I know. We're going to have to really do it quick. So,
I'm hungry,
I know. That's a prelude to us going to dinner afterwards. So let's go on 17. Let's do the clock quick. It's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. They lose, obviously, Calvin Ridley. They got a stud quarterback. The Clemson All-American there in Lawrence. It's got to be, I'm looking at the receiver. I'm saying Adonai Mitchell. It could be anybody there, but Mitchell's risen up the draft board. Guys, did they take a receiver and he's the guy?
That's what they're going to do. They're going to go with a receiver. They need a playmaker outside for Trevor Lawrence, and they got to replace. They need a speed guy who can clean the top off the defense. So that's a great pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Benny?
Yeah, sounds good. Maybe they'll go with an Alabama guy or one of those other guys.
They could. You got Jermaine Burton out there, from Alabama.
But the speed of Mitchell, you guys are right. I mean, what was he? What did he run, like a 4.21 or 4.1 something?
I think that was Worthy, his other guy. They had two of them out there. But let's go with. They're going to go to wide receiver.
Okay.
Unless anybody out there argues with me, Cincinnati Bengals, 18. They've addressed the offensive line position. If Trent Brown is healthy, that's a great weak side offensive tackle for Joe Burrow, and he's got to be up right there. They lose some players. They lose Joe Mixon. They lose Tyler Boyd. They lose Jonah Williams. They lose Irv Smith Jr. We had his dad on the show earlier last year. I'm saying they're going edge rushers. I'm saying it's Jared Verse, Florida State. I got him rated as the second best edge rusher. I say they go defensively. They lose Reader. They need to pick up the slack there.
Well, I tell you what, every time I see Joe Burrows or think about Joe Burrows, I think about an offensive lineman, because I tell you what, he's probably one of the most sacked guys in the league.
Yeah.
If they don't go edge rusher, offensive line is premier and are a speed guy outside as a receiver.
Benny,
maybe a spot for a running back to slip in there because they lost Joe Mixon.
True. They did pick up Zach Moss. They did get Moss. They got him, who's been semi-productive there. Benny, real quick, do you see them bolstering the offensive line? Do you see them going defense?
Could be either one. Verse is an excellent defensive lineman, and like you got to protect that guy. He's your money.
He is.
If he's not on the field, totally different.
Yeah, we got some video here on Verse. I think he's one of the best. He's just such a tremendous speeds rusher.
Yeah.
Had a tremendous year at Florida State last year for Coach Mike Norvell. So I'm going to say Jared Verse. I can see them taking a corner. I can also see them taking maybe a wide receiver as well. That brings us to the Rams and pick 19. The Rams, listen, they lost the best player in the organization, which is Aaron Donald, to retirement. You can't replace an Aaron Donald. Maybe you take a defensive tackle. I see them going corner with Nate Wiggins. I know, Benny, you were a little suspect with being undersized, but played really, really well. Bump and run coverage, can get up and make the tackle. Yeah. I like Wiggins.
Yeah, Wiggins is a good pick there.
Al, you concur with that pick?
Yeah, I do. Great technique guy, great speed, and I like them going defense any way you go, whether it's cornerback or D-line.
I do too. And that brings us to the Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock at number 20. Listen, the Steelers have there's been so much roster flip here. They get two quarterbacks. Now, they get rid of their number one from 2 years ago, Kenny Pickett. They decided he is not the franchise quarterback. Then they bring in Russell Wilson from Denver, and then they make the trade for Justin Fields. So they have two. They get Patrick Queen, the linebacker out of Baltimore, Dante Jackson. They picked up a lot of guys, but They lost an offensive tackle. And what's really hurt them, I think, the last 3 or 4 years, guys, is their offensive play. They have good running backs. They have talented running backs. Yep. Their offensive line has been a mess, and I say they go with the big horse here, J.C. Latham out of Alabama. They could go with the kid from Washington, Benny, but the size of this kid, Latham, I think they like this kid.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent choice there. You bolster that offensive line. They got the running backs. They got to give Russell Wilson some time, or whoever that quarterback is. A lot of really good pickups. Yeah. Patrick Queen, Dante Jackson, a lot of nice.
The previous quarterbacks have been beat up, been sacked. So you're right. They got to bolster that offensive line. Great pick.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. I think if Pittsburgh's smart and Omar Khan's smart, They take an offensive tackle. We say J.C. Latham, which brings us to pick number 21, the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins have lost a lot of players. They lose Christian Wilkins, who was their best defensive lineman this year. They lose cornerback Xavier Howard, who's been a lockdown corner, arguably one of the top 5 corners the last 3 or 4 years in the NFL. They lose Emmanuel Ogba, an edge rusher. I say they take Chop Robinson, who lit it up, ran a ridiculous 40-yard dash in the combine. Good production at Penn State. I say they need somebody on the defensive line, and they make that Chop Robinson.
Excellent
concur.
choice there. Yes.
I should be a GM, guys.
I'm a little worried that I'm agreeing with you so much, but I watched him several games, and very, very, very impressive defensive lineman. And yeah, they lost Wilkins. They got to go. They got to fill that spot. That guy was all pro.
I agree. So we all like the pick. We all like definitely defense, whether or not it's Robinson or not. We both like the pick it as an edge rusher there for Miami.
Yep.
Okay, so that brings us to 22, the Philadelphia Eagles, who, made it to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Last year they were riding high. I think they were 10-1 or 10-2, and then absolutely collapsed. I don't know what happened with Nick Sirianni's team, but they absolutely were terrible, and they got thrashed in the playoffs. They have a big loss. Fletcher Cox, who's been a mainstay for the Eagles on the defensive line, retires. They lose Hassan Reddick, a huge loss, one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. I say they definitely go defense here. I'm going to say, listen, they could pick an edge rusher, guys, to replace Reddick. I say they go with the second best corner in the draft, Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. That's my take on that. Do you guys like the corner, or do you like more of a defensive line edge rusher?
I like the pick. I tell you what, one thing you got to keep in mind, they lost both the offense and defensive coordinators last year to do new jobs. So they had new guys in there. So they had a whole new flavor on that team. But I'm like you, I don't know what happened after going 10-1 and they falling in the tank. But defense is what it's all about.
I agree. Benny, you like the pick?
I don't think he's going to be there, but I definitely think they're going to go defense. I think he's going to be gone.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's
I think
a
he's
chance.
Going to make 22.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a chance Deshaun could go in the top 15 or 16, but we'll see what needs are at the time. But that puts us to the Minnesota Vikings with their second first-round pick. If Eric's still with us, I know we've gone a little long here. We're saying the Vikings are going to take a quarterback in the first round, and with their first pick, it's going to be McCarthy. I'm saying they need help at wide receiver. They lose KJ Osborne, who was productive last year. And the rumors are, guys, and Eric, if he's still with us, can kind of let us know that Jefferson is not going to sign a long-term deal with the Vikings. He's not happy to let Cousins go. You're going to have to do something, and you might as well sign a guy to a rookie deal. And this guy's undervalued. I love Ladd McConkey's game at Georgia. I think he's a tremendous wide receiver. He gets open. He catches the football. I think it's a great compliment if they get a J.J. McCarthy or a Michael Penix Jr. or somebody in that realm. What do you think?
I tell you what, if they get a quarterback in the first round, early in the first round, it'd be natural for them to complement that quarterback with a receiver. So this kid here, I'm not real high on him. Yeah, but I think there's some other guys out there who can play.
I agree with that. I don't think he's going 23rd in the.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say. I'm not high on him, but I mean I think a receiver to complement your quarterback would be nice.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Eric does have a comment.
Eric, Eric's our resident Viking expert. So Eric, what do you think about the pick?
Well, Eric, before you said what the pick was, announced what the pick was, he says if the Vikings can get JJ, then chop Robinson at the back end of round 1. Wow.
Okay, so he likes Robinson if he's there with the Vikings on defense. Now that they lost Marcus Davenport and Danielle Hunter, they lost both edge rushers. Hunter, when he's healthy, is a tremendous player. Davenport, I think, was drafted, by the Saints about 4 or 5 years ago. Never really panned out in New Orleans, went to Minnesota. So I don't know, guys, maybe they need an edge rusher. I don't know, but we'll take a look. Maybe Eric's got something in with Quizzy Adolfo Mensa. Maybe he's got some kind of relationship with him. But that takes us to the Dallas Cowboys. I know Danny Kistard out there is a huge Dallas Cowboy fan. They have pick number 24. They lose some offensive linemen. They got to keep Dak Prescott upright. They lose Tony Pollard. I say they go offensive tackle. I know, Benny, you like this kid at Washington, Fatanu.
Yep.
I like the pick there with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I do. Yep. Yeah, they're gonna they got to replace some of those guys. They're getting a little. They had a few injuries. The kid from Notre Dame, Martin, he got banged up a little bit last year.
Yep.
So always need that protection. Always need that protection for the quarterback.
Al,
I concur, Les.
yeah,
yes,
I was going
concur.
to say, Dak Prescott, he's put up great numbers and everything like that. Is really failed to take the Cowboys to the promised land, but he needs an offensive line to keep him upright. He was injured a couple years ago. If you're Dallas, you go as far as Dak Prescott takes you, and I say, this kid is a good pick for Washington. He played well in the playoffs. He shut down the Texas defensive line, which has two guys that they say could go late first, early second, and they didn't get a sniff of Penix in that playoff game. So I like Fatanu as the pick for the Dallas Cowboys, which takes us to the Green Bay Packers. I know we got Stu out in California who's a big Packer fan, and I say, look, they lose David Bakhtiari, their longtime offensive tackle. Jordan Love came into his own last year, really played well in his first year as a starter, replacing Aaron Rodgers. They lose Aaron Jones, but they pick up Josh Jacobs. I say that's kind of a even trade, and they got Xavier McKinney, one of Benny's Giants guys, who he was upset that the Giants lost.
Best defensive player, probably.
Exactly. I say they go offensive tackle. They could go a lot of ways, guys. They could go with Guyton in Oklahoma. There's a couple of they could go with Morgan, the kid out of Arizona. I say they go with Amarius Mims out of Georgia. I like his size. I like his pedigree. He's played well against top competition, and I think he protects Love's blind side. Ultimately, I like the pick.
Yes,
yeah.
Offensive line.
Coach Matt's got to get the big guy in there to protect this young quarterback. I agree. Jordan Love's got to be protected. He played well last year. You want to keep him up, keep him healthy. You got to get people in front of him to block people around.
I agree, and that takes us.
Stu agrees as well.
Oh, it's Stu out there in California. That's
they need to get an offensive line.
Guy says they need an offensive line. Like I said, Jordan Love's made great strides last year, and you do not want to see him regress in year two of starting there. So that takes us to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have basically no cap space. Listen, they spent a lot of money to bring back Baker Mayfield. Not exactly sure I like that. They lose Shaq Barrett. They lose Carlton Davis. They lose a lot of these guys. Devin White. These are guys that were mainstays on their Super Bowl team when Brady was quarterbacking. They've got a lot of needs, but I like the edge rusher there, Latui Latu from UCLA. Benny, I know you like this kid.
Yeah.
He didn't. I'll tell you though, in his pro day, he didn't light up the pro day, but I like his production on the field at UCLA. That's another one, Al, that a guy that maybe his pro day numbers weren't great, but his production on the field cannot be ignored. You cannot do that. I mean, the guy put up, he put a great film together at UCLA, and he did it in the games, not on the track. I like this kid's production. I like the pick.
Yeah, the head coach is the defensive guy. They got to replace a lot of people, and they got to get themselves back in the playoff. I'm like you. I don't know why they spent all that money on Baker Mayfield, but it is what it is.
Benny, you like the pick?
Yep.
All right, that takes us to
no doubt about it.
Well, that takes us to Arizona Cardinals. Their second pick in the first round. They addressed the offense, with Kyler Murray getting a wide receiver in the first round, in the first pick of the first round. I say they go defense, and I say they go for cornerback Terry Arnold at Alabama. There's two of them. Kool-Aid McKinstry is a tremendous cornerback too, but I like Arnold's game better. I think he's bigger. I think he's a true lockdown number one. I like the pick.
I like the pick too. I think the scheme that they run, they need a lockdown corner. That guy's he's young, he's big, he's fast, and can play.
Benny, any surprises here?
Maybe go offensive line.
And that's a potential. They lose D.G. Humphreys, who's a mainstay
there. Offensive line with one of these Oklahoma guy or. Well,
they brought in Jonah Williams, who played at Cincy. So they brought him in, which takes us to the Buffalo Bills at pick number 28 on that thing. Now, Buffalo's lost a lot, guys.
They could pick anybody this team. Because
Buffalo's in trouble.
They're decimated.
They are.
Their window's gone.
It is.
I know. I know that they were talking about. They got so many holes to fill, and they think that Josh Allen's the guy to make everybody better, but. They lost so much. I mean, they lost everybody. Well, they could pick anybody.
Well, They lost both wide receivers in Diggs and Gabriel Davis, who's underrated and a really good player. They lose both safeties in Jordan Pryor and Micah Hyde. I mean, they bring in 3 wide receivers, but no one that's really eye-catching here. I say they go with a wide receiver, and I say they go with the kid out of Texas who lit it up in the 40, set the record, Xavier Worthy. I know he's 165 pounds, but he's pretty tough. He's not a John Ross type of player that since he took a couple years ago out of Washington. I like the pick. I think they take a wide receiver. They could take Troy Franklin. They could take another player, but I like Worthy out of Texas.
I like a wide receiver pick also. And I tell you what, we're going to find out this year if Josh Allen has that big S in his chest and the cape flying, because he's going to need to be Superman this season.
I agree. I think it's all on Josh Allen's shoulders, whether or not Buffalo repeats in the AFC or makes a run towards a playoff. But Benny, to just,
I think they go defense, Buffalo.
Yeah, you think they go? I mean, listen, like you said, they need everything. I think their window is closing, and it's closing rapidly. If they don't get to the playoffs and make a push this year, it's time to blow it up. That's what I think. So we go to pick number 29, the Detroit Lions, who made a great jump last year with Dan Campbell as the head coach. They make it to the NFC Championship game. I thought they played great young players. I guess today they just signed St. Brown, the wide receiver, to a massive contract. He put up great numbers last year. I love the signing. I say, though, to bolster the offensive line, I like this kid. I know interior line's not the way you want to go in the first round, but he's by far the highest rated guy as an offensive lineman. The kid out of Oregon, Jackson Powers Johnson. I like the pick. They could do some other things, but I really like this pick here with Powers Johnson.
I think Dan Campbell understands that you got to have the people up front, and I think you got to protect your quarterback. Yeah. They did make a great run this past season, and they want to continue that, and you got to build from up front. So I think that's a good pick.
I think we might have a comment here on this one.
Yes, let Benny answer.
Oh,
first.
Benny, go ahead.
Go ahead.
We'll throw the comment out.
I think there's a Cooper Beebe out from Kansas State.
I like him too, Benny, and a lot of people are saying, his measurables weren't great, but I saw him as a road grader at Kansas State. I agree with you.
He's one of them tough guys, man. I mean, I see them Cooper Beebe maybe.
Someone's going to get a steal with this kid in the late second, early third round. But let's go to Joni real quick. I know one of the viewers has a comment there.
Yes, one of the viewers, TVJ, who's a huge Detroit fan. He asks, what do you think their strategy is this year?
The Lions' strategy, well, I mean, let's face it. I think defensively, they drafted Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan. I think he's made strides. He's really, really a top young player. I think signing St. Brown today is a huge deal. That really helps Jared Goff. I think running back position's good. They've got some
tight ends. Yeah, tight end's good.
Tight end's a tremendous young tight end.
Backs are tremendous.
Yeah, I
think they'll be right there. They'll be right there.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, they were there.
I think they're looking for depth, though. They want to make sure they got depth at every position. I think that might be the strategy for the Detroit Lions. They got a good football team.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah.
They really do.
And guys, I do not see them falling down. I do not see this as a surprise last year that it was a one and done thing. No. To your point, Al, I think that's the best thing is build depth. God forbid you have an injury or something like that. You can plug someone in there and the machine does not stop. So we do like the Lions there with an offensive line pick.
Offensive line.
And that brings us to Baltimore. We've got 3 picks left. Baltimore in the playoffs last year. They lost a lot of players too. They lost 2 offensive linemen, 2 starters. They lose Morgan Moses and Kevin Zeider. Those are big pieces. And they bring in Derrick Henry, the big horse from the Tennessee Titans. And guess what? He's a tremendous running back. But if he doesn't have guys opening holes, he's not going to gain many yards. And I say they go with Jordan Morgan, a very athletic tackle out of the University of Arizona. I mean, if you see tape on this guy, he's not a giant guy. He's like 310, 312, but he pulls from his tackle position. He's great against speed rushers. He doesn't get beat on the edge. And in the bull rush, he stands up really well. I love a tackle here. I love Morgan's upside. I like Jordan Morgan for this pick.
I agree with you, Les. And I tell you what, hands down, this team might be the best team on paper right now in the league.
They lost. Now, they did lose Patrick Queen. They lose Jadeveon Clowney.
They could go with a defensive back.
Okay, I was going to say, Benny. I know they lost Ronald Darby.
Yeah, they could go with a defensive back. I could see him going defensive back.
Yeah,
there.
I could see some defense or defensive back help, but I'm going to say they go to try to bolster the offensive line, and help Derrick Henry and obviously Lamar Jackson, the quarterback there. That brings us to pick number 31. The San Francisco 49ers made it to the Super Bowl last year. Another tough defeat at the hands of who else? The Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, they got a lot of good players. They did lose some defensive players, though. They did lose Eric Armstead. They lost Oren Burks. They lost some edge rushers, Cleveland Farrell, Randy Gregory. I say they take Darius Robinson, kid out of Missouri. Saw him play last year in the SEC. Missouri was a surprise team last year. He was the best defensive player on the Tigers squad last year. I love the pick. He's kind of, I'm not going to say unknown, under the radar a little bit, but I like his measurables, and I think he fits right in with San Francisco opposite Bosa at the other end.
This is another team that's going to be right there in the thick of things. Again, they need the depth. They want to make sure they can backfill if anybody gets hurt. So I'm wide open. I like that pick too.
All right, guys.
What about defense? Peyton Wilson, right? Linebacker.
Peyton Wilson's the linebacker out of NC State.
Yeah, could take him.
Yeah, we got him. Do we have any questions on that? Oh, we do?
No.
Oh, no questions on San Francisco. I figured we had a San Francisco fan out there. Evidently not. Which takes us now to the last pick. We did this, guys, in about an hour and, in an hour and...
Hour and 15.
An hour and 15 minutes. Better than I thought we were going to do. We go to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the Kansas City Chiefs three-peat. They have some cap space. They lost cornerback L'Jarius Sneed. They lost Donovan Smith at the offensive line, Marquise Valdes-Scantling. They did pick up Hollywood Brown from Baltimore to be a deep threat for Patrick Mahomes, like he needs another one. Carson Wentz is a backup quarterback, kind of a head-scratcher, I guess, in insurance. I say they go with another wide receiver, and I think this kid, Troy Franklin, is flying under the radar. I saw him play with Knicks. I saw him play against Washington. I think this kid is a game breaker. I love the pick, and you have a quarterback like MVP Mahomes throwing. This kid turns into an all-pro within 2 to 3 years. What do you guys think?
Yeah, when you got a gunslinger like Mahomes, man, you got to give him some weapons. You got to keep him hot, keep him with talented people outside for sure. He's going to make some plays. He can extend plays, but he needs some people who can burn, turn, and burn.
Benny?
He proved that they lost one of the best receiver in the NFL, and he just went along with these other guys. I could see pick a wide receiver. I think they might go defensive back, maybe. They lost Sneed. That's a big loss, man.
Yeah, it is. It is.
He was really good. As good as Kansas City's, I think their defense really won it for them this year.
Chris Jones up front.
Chris Jones was unbeliable.
Was tremendous. And
their defense was, I think, the main reason they won.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Really.
And Al, everyone looks at Kansas City as really Patrick Mahomes, number 15. The bottom line is, I think Benny's right. I think Mahomes had a good year, no doubt about it, but it wasn't an MVP year. And there were games where, their offense kind of sputtered a little bit. They put the clamps on Kelsey, and it was really up to the defense to carry the load, and I think they really did it in the Super Bowl.
They
defense win championship. Offense sell tickets.
Yeah, they kept
Spoke
the game
like a true quarterback.
They knew if they kept the game close, they had the man that would take the team down the field. So they just kept it close.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we got through all 32. This is going to be exciting tomorrow night. It's at 8 o'clock in Detroit. It'll be on all. Let's see how we do versus the experts. I'm curious to see how, do we actually hit with some of these guys? And it'd be really cool if we did a good job with it. So I appreciate you both coming on. We have Al Chester, the Rattler, down in Jacksonville, Benny the Book. Guys, listen, thanks so much for taking time out tonight to do this. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. We are going to thank everyone out there for all their comments and questions. That's been outstanding. And we are going to be back after this with the wrap. So, guys, we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Take care, Al. Have a good week.
All right. Take care, guys.
You got it.
Forever 24 Fit, Leland's only gym with 24-hour access. Get fit when it's convenient, utilizing Life Fitness, cardio, and weight machines. And for those of you who prefer free weights, there is a free weight area as well. Start your membership today and get on your way to a better you. Six Happiness. Enjoy fresh Asian cuisine in a relaxed and friendly atmosphere where we believe good times deserve great food. featuring the best sushi chefs in the Leland area. So come on in, and we guarantee you will be delighted.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm Les Swartz. Tremendous show tonight. It went a little long. It's tough to do with 32 draft picks and really analyzing all the players and their positions and where they might go. Listen, we all know there's going to be trades tomorrow night. Teams going to trade down. Teams going to trade up. I expect 5, 6, 7 trades to go. I think some players, to Al's point, I think there's going to be some eye-popping things going on here. I think there's going to be some big-time players moving tomorrow night, but we'll be sure to check that at 8 o'clock, and let's see how we do here at Swartz Talkin Sports versus the experts there. But before we go, I want to give a quick shout-out to Vince Coleman. His amazing daughter, Capilani Coleman, again, does it here at the MT-SAC 400-meter hurdles. Check this out. It's a sanctioned world pro in high school as well as college. And look at her on the outside, absolutely blazing to a massive win in the 400-meter hurdles. She's got such a massive lead there. It looks like me running against Benny the Book there. So what a fantastic run. Congratulations, Capilani, proud papa, Vince Coleman. And we'll be keeping everyone posted on her progress. And hopefully she does well in the upcoming Pac-12 championship. So, again, thanks, everyone, for all their input on tonight's show. I know we had so much we crammed into tonight. We try to get it done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Again, everyone out there, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do. We need to get that. It's our drive for 1,000, so let's keep that going. Again, we appreciate everyone's viewership and everyone's comments. So please let us know how we're doing and how we can do better. Again, special thanks again to my co-host, Al the Rattler Chester, Benny the Book, the King of Carolina, for Tony Smeraldi, my producer, for Joni, my Q&A and amazing chat girl. This is Les Swartz for Swartz Talkin Sports. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday, everybody.